And joining us now, we have Roberto Tebaldi, Commercial Manager at Trans Austria Gasleitung. Thank you so much for your time. I'd like to ask you what you are doing, your organization is doing, to accelerate the energy transition.
Yeah, I mean, before we address the question of how we can achieve a sustainable progress in the energy transition, I think that we need to be clear about the challenge we face. In context of main achievements that have led to enormous socio-economic changes, the energy transition takes its starting point in an ever-increasing ecological necessity. We as a TSO, we have a duty. Our duty is to maintain all our assets in the best possible condition and to modernize them constantly. With a company like us, it's our expectation and the expectation also of our customers and other market participants that we also reduce our ecological footprint to a minimum. We try to take exactly these expectations into account and evaluate all our projects regarding their contribution to the energy transition. And I would like to explain this by naming two relevant polluters, which are CO2 and methane emissions. In the first case, our goal is to reduce CO2 emissions by 30% until 2025 compared to the average between 2015 and 2020. And over the same period, we also want to reduce methane emissions by 27%. In addition, we are also trying to significantly improve energy efficiency by using waste heat generated during gas compression by feeding it into a district heating pipeline network. The project is currently in the approval phase, after which the first district heating offered by our company should be made available within 24 months, more or less. And regarding alternative gases, which are to be transported via our pipeline system, hydrogen comes first. For this purpose, we have initiated a project which deals with the hydrogen readiness of the pipeline system. The aim of the project is to determine which measures are required for different operating modes in hydrogen transport. Essentially, it is about blended operation with 10 and 20% hydrogen content in the natural gas, and about 100% hydrogen transport via one pipeline, whereby the transport can be executed in both directions, from north to south and south to north. And furthermore, we want also to get stronger involved in the mobility sector. In Austria, as in other European countries, the mobility sector accounts for 1/3 of the energy demand. 90% is covered by fossil fuels. We see it as our task to be able to offer solutions directly for mobility in addition to energy transport. One consideration is a fueling system where various energy carriers such as hydrogen can be refueled. Another important point is the exchange of information. This is one of the cornerstones for achieving the energy transition as quickly as possible. And our company applied for the IPCEI hydrogen and would like to participate in the so-called matchmaking process, which is intended to support various stakeholders within EU in the development of a new supply system with hydrogen through networking and collaboration. We highly appreciate this kind of mechanism, and we expect here important contacts and impulses to set up our hydrogen strategy as market-oriented as possible. And last but not least, of course, we are in the regulated business, and we coordinate all our activities with the Austrian regulator, who is the central point of contact for us when translating the legal requirements and regulations into our existing and future business.
So then let me ask you, just briefly, and given everything that you've shared right now, from your perspective, which requirements do you see as most relevant to accelerate the energy transition?
As I said at the beginning, I mean, it's the challenges we are facing right now in this phase are different and stronger than what we have done in the past. Yeah, climate change and global warming are not no longer merely observable phenomena, but they are already a struggle for survival in many places in our world. And the main challenge is to recognize the connection between our own behavior as individuals and as a society, and the change in our climatic habitat. We all must internalize new habits and let them mature into normality in such a way that a return to the old is neither possible nor desirable. I would like to give you an example. In 2019, the number of inhabitants in Austria was 8.9 million. Every Austrian emitted 1.6 times the average mass of a car. That means around 1,400 kilo of greenhouse gases in the same year. But this did not happen once, no, but year after year with still increasing tendency. If you ask me, the central challenge is how to make ourselves aware of our actions and how it becomes a personal need to change our behavior. We need leaders in the politics, we need leaders in the business and in many other areas who set an example and create an environment in which the real energy transition can take place. They will have to give answers to people that are alternatives and solutions to the cherished comfort zone in our daily lives. So the purchase of an electric car must not be made dependent on how we come to Tuscany next summer with our car. All this takes place on an intellectual and emotional level. It is the breeding ground on which the energy transition must be based. Energy transition will not only need innovations, it will probably end up in a transformation of our society. And we know perfectly well that transformations need framework conditions for their success. It will be necessary to enact suitable laws, to define regulations, and to introduce new forms of organization that enable such an energy transition. Looking at our company, we started looking at our own ecological footprint a few years ago. And we quickly realized that it can only be reduced in a relevant way if we emphatically look for alternatives and solutions in the areas of energy optimization, emission reduction, and choice of energy source, and establish them in our company. Of course, we as a transmission system operator are looking also for opportunities to open up our pipeline network to other energy carriers. Biogas and hydrogen are probably the most important alternatives. I think we made a good start of what I said at the beginning in our company. The energy transition is not just a topic in our company, no, at all. It is more and more a part of our everyday business life and is on the top of our strategic agenda. And when we are in contact with other companies, our impression is that they go through very similar developments and deal with almost identical questions. That means that the process of transformation has already started on the part of companies. Where we see a need for acceleration today is in the legal and regulatory area. However, this has nothing to do with the fact that politicians, interest groups, or regulatory authorities work poorly or alone. Quite the opposite. They have the huge task to reconcile all topics at international, EU, and national level, and bringing them together into a system which is working with low efficiency losses. If I have 1 minute more, I would like to give you an example on that. Yeah, an example connected with our business, gas transport. Our company transports through Austria gas, natural gas, from the border from Slovakia to the Italian border, and supplies Italy with more than 40% of the Italian natural gas demand. The question now arises as to whether this approach also applies for hydrogen, or is it even thinkable that hydrogen will have to be transported in the opposite direction, from the south, from Italy to the north? Because in the future there will be new production centers for hydrogen. For such a scenario, are the regulations that we use today in the transport of natural gas still practicable, or do we have to look for new rules? This is a typical question which we must clarify in future. Let me summarize in this way. Last point, yeah. A successful and sustainable energy transition needs awareness, practicable technologies and technical solutions, and the related legal and regulatory framework.
Roberto Tebaldi, thank you so much for your time.